Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Crazy Kitsune Gaming with our first episode of Stellaris, because the beauty of the channel is the diversity of its videos. This is honestly a incredibly fun game that I'm honestly very happy to show on the channel, because this is a game that needs a lot of love. Now, I should preface all of this by saying that I own about all of the DLCs except for Toxoids, which is really unfortunate because that's the one I want the most, but in any case, this episode is mostly going to be dedicated to showing you how to create your nation that you will play in this game, as this is a 4X strategy game, I believe it's called. I forget what the 4X's stand for, unfortunately. It just escapes my brain at the moment, completely and utterly. But in any case, I will be showing off how to basically create your nation, and believe me, this game gives you so much freedom. You can be a group of democratic crusaders, you could be some authoritarian dictatorship, or you could be a sacrificial cult. Now, whether or not that culminates into a successful nation is up for you to find out. It may seem weird having an entire episode dedicated to just how to create your nation, but this is a game where I feel like it's worthy of its own episode. So, the first thing about creating your own nation is making the species itself. The first part of it being the appearance. Now, as you can see, there are a lot of options, but we're not going to be playing as these ugly... Like, what even are these? These are like hairless monkeys. Absolutely gross, unattractive, and repugnant. No, we won't be playing as anything like that. Instead, we'll probably be playing as something like, oh, I don't know, these guys. Very sleek, fluffy, attractive, charismatic, absolutely perfect. Now, as for the next part of creating your species, you will need the species name. Now, I will be basically trying to recreate the first nation that I made when playing the game. It probably won't be a carbon copy, but I figure it's easier to show in the example. Now, you can just press Y to randomize what the name is. And, you know, sometimes it comes up with some good names. You know, never mind, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that. But yes, you can put the name of the species in, and then whatever their plural is, as in the word for what multiple of them is, and their adjective, which you can just have as whatever you want. In this case, it chose Yapathian. The next part is the name list, and honestly, you can choose whichever one of these you think is the most fitting for your species and nation. Honestly, a lot of them are pretty good. I kind of like a lot of the aquatic ones and the fleet names that they get. But, I mean, honestly, you can just go through this for hours, looking for the one that you find is most fitting for your nation. Although it doesn't really affect gameplay, kind of like, you know, with the species appearance and name list. And you can also choose your ship prefix, which is the letter code that your ships will have when other nations see them to help, differentiate and identify, because there are quite often a lot of different nations in a game of Stellaris, so being able to tell which one's ships you're seeing can be very useful. And now we get into actually useful things. Yes, we can finally get into our species' actual traits. Now, some say that they're not the most important thing, but honestly, having good species traits can be very helpful when you actually get into the game proper. Now, I could probably spend an entire another video talking about all of the different traits, but I'm pretty sure the trait set that I went with for my first species was quick learners, because that increases your leader experience gain, which is very useful. We went with unruly, I'm pretty sure. See, you can actually take these negative traits as you only have so many trait points that you can use. But if you take a negative trait like unruly, then yes, it is a negative thing. Extra empire size from population is not the most beneficial thing, but it means that you can take other positives, like very strong, for example, which I took. Although I must say, in hindsight, this trait is kind of a ripoff, but oh well. I forget what other traits I had, because I know that definitely wasn't it. It's fine. In any case, then when you're finally done, then you can choose your ruler's name. And, of course, the different clothes that they can wear, and there are a lot of different things you can customize. You can even customize the color, which, yeah, it doesn't actually affect gameplay, but, you know, you can if you want to. And you can choose the back room that you have for the background of your nation, and in multiplayer at least, it is what other players and other nations will see when entering communications with you. Now, it does always start off the ruler title as Empress or Emperor in the case of a male. But if you, as you get later into creating your actual nation, then it will actually auto-change the name to something more fitting for whatever government type you have set up. And last but not least, you can also change the name of your ruler. Now, I should say, and it honestly does say right here, is, you know, you can customize your starting ruler, but that ruler can die, usually of old age. And there are some government types like democracies, for example, which will change the ruler very often. Kind of wish you could choose your ruler's starting traits. That would probably make this menu a bit more meaningful, but oh well. The next thing to consider when creating your nation is your home world, as you can actually change what planet type your homeworld is. It will always default to a continental world, but you can go on tropical worlds, ocean worlds, deserts, arids, savannas, tundras, alpines, and arctics. Now, if you choose one that is under the wet list, then you will actually have... There is a certain stat in the game known as habitability that determines whether or not you can effectively use other planets. So, for example, if you choose an ocean world, you will actually get a decent amount of habitability on both continentals and tropicals. So that is something to keep in mind. Now, they don't tell you this right off the bat, but depending on what class the planet type falls under, depends on what resource you're going to get the most of. And, honestly, we're just getting into so much, because there are so many different resources in the game, but, you know, you do need energy in this game to keep buildings powered, and food to feed your population, and minerals to turn into metal. So, keep in mind that the wet worlds tend to have more food deposits, desert worlds are better at giving you energy, and frozen worlds are better for minerals. And of course, you can name your home world. Yeah, don't worry, in the nation that I'm gonna be actually playing in this playthrough, I'm definitely not gonna have the home world named Imikandra. And I'm not gonna have the star name called Imikendra Agat. Yeah, none of that. And you can also choose your starting solar system. It does default to random, but you can actually force it to be trinary, as in have 3 stars in your starting system, or binary if you only want 2. Or if you just want to be boring, you could go with having 1 star. There are also a few special systems like Deneb, and you can start in the Sol system, which is funny because that's actually the starting solar system of this strange planet called Earth. Yeah, I hear the main species on that planet is absolutely dog crap and not fun to be around, but oh well. Also, there are a few special starting systems that you can only have with certain origins, which we will get into in just a moment. Now, you can also choose your city appearance. This is another thing that is absolutely and 100% cosmetic, but, you know, it does help you give your nation its own personality, other than just whatever government type it is and how its species is. I honestly think I like the reptilian one the best. It's just kind of pretty, especially on an Arctic world. Anyway, let's get into actually useful things. So, origins. I will say that a lot of these are locked behind the DLCs, but you do start off with Prosperous Unification, Galactic Doorstep, and Lost Colony. I probably will be talking about all of these origins more in depth at a later point, but for now, I'd just say, for when you first start off the game, Prosperous Unification is the best origin you could hope to have, because it starts you off with 4 more population and 2 additional districts. Now, you probably don't know what either of those things are yet, but they are very nice to start the game off with having more of those things. Am I making any sense? I hope I am. Now then, let's get into the actual nation and how your empire is going to be. So, in this area, and I must say, I am playing this on console edition. If you've played this game on PC, this whole thing probably looks a little bit weird to you, because this is not how the menu is on PC. But basically, you have this entire list of ethics that you can choose from. Each of the ethics gives its own little bonuses and sort of ethical restrictions, or in some cases, lack of ethical restrictions. But when I made my first empire, we went with Fanatic Xenophile, because honestly, it's probably just the best ethic in the world. If you're a Xenophile, you're probably a great person. And we went with Militarist, because I would much rather be a hawk than a dove. I like being alive, and I am very much willing to defend that life. And, oh dear, civics. So, other than the ethics, there are also civics you can choose that will sort of give you certain bonuses. Unlike ethics, they tend not to have any actual restraints. However, there are some civics that are locked behind ethics. Like, for example, warrior culture, which I actually went with my starting nation. Well, you can actually only take it if you are some degree of militarist, and if you don't have the Pleasure Seeker civic. There are also other civics like Freehaven, which you need to be some degree of Xenophile. And of course, civics like Agrarian Ideal, where you need to be a degree of pacifist, and there are some civics where you need to have a different government type. So, yeah, should probably get into that soon. But I think the other civic I went with was Environmentalist. Oh yeah, because they recently released Toxoids. Yeah, they buffed the crap out of this thing. I mean, thank you, it needed a bonus. Not sure if these are exactly the bonuses it needed to really shine, but, you know, I appreciate it nonetheless. But yeah, there are so many civics to talk about. Now, as for your government type, there are 4 different types of governments you can choose. Now, if you have the DLCs, there are also corporate governments and machine intelligence and hive mind governments, but I'll just be going over the 4 main ones, since I know not everyone will have the DLCs. So you have democratic, which is, sadly in my opinion, one of the weakest government types. I should mention that depending on your ethics between authoritarian and egalitarian, you will be locked out of a lot of these government types if you go either direction in these ethics. And yeah, they do give good bonuses, but keep in mind, you know, Fanatic Egalitarian is a really nice ethic, but it does lock you out of being an oligarchy, unfortunately. So, democratic, it's nice. It doesn't tell you, but you will actually get certain, tasks from your citizens that, if you complete in a democratic government, will actually give you a nice chunk of unity. You probably don't know what unity is at this point, and honestly, this is such an expansive game, and there is so much to talk about. I'm just going over the bare basics of how to build your nation, but unity is a good thing. But sadly, as you get further and further into the game, democratic governments become less useful, as the automatic resettlement chance... Yeah, I know there are a lot of stats I haven't explained, but automatic resettlement chance is not a stat that you want lots of. Now, the Oligarchica government does give you the faction unity gain, and it also means that you can hold emergency elections to change your ruler at any time, which is a very nice thing to have. It's honestly my favorite government type because of just how incredibly flexible it is. You also have dictatorial, which is where the effects of the government start becoming very powerful, but you lose almost all flexibility. Empire size effect being reduced by 10% is very nice, but you can only have an election when your ruler dies. Which, yeah, if you have a species that lives incredibly long, as if you go with certain traits like enduring or venerable, you're probably going to run into this problem of having to wait for your ruler to die before the next election is so inconvenient. And then there is Imperial, which honestly has the same problem of dictatorial, except it is 10 times worse, because now you don't even get to elect who the next ruler is. You're just stuck with whoever the heir is. And if the heir is an absolutely useless ruler who doesn't know what in the world he's doing, then yeah, that's a problem. Although max influence from power projection, again, I'll have to explain it in a later video, but it is at the very least a good effect. But yeah, I will probably... Let me just go over the ethics, in my opinion, my short opinions on them real quick. So, militarist, it's a very good thing because being able to claim things for less influence, because as you'll find, especially if you decide to play a conquest-based empire that wants to take over most of its neighbors, influence is going to be your main stopgap. It will be the thing that bottlenecks you the most. And more ship fire rate, well, you don't need to... You can be a basic gamer and know what that means. And pacifist, yeah, I don't really like it at all. I kind of want to be able to declare any kind of war that I want at any time. Honestly, pacifist nations, like, Yeah, they're there to get vassalized by conquerors. That's all pacifist is for. It's so that they can apply it to the AI so that you can watch as they get absolutely devoured, so that you know not to be a pacifist. Egalitarian, it's honestly a very good ethic. It does lock you out of autocratic government forms, which, not much of a big loss, honestly. And it does give you more specialist pop resource output and faction unity gain, which is a very, very good thing to have. And on the other side, authoritarian, this is just a really bad ethic. Honestly, the bonuses it gives are kind of minuscule. Now, I did say, like, Crazy Kitsune Gaming, what are you talking about? What about that monthly influence? Isn't influence just such a good thing? Well, yes, it is. But generally, you're going to find that a reduction in how much of it you're spending is better than an increase in how much of it you're generating. And also, worker pop resource output is so much less valuable than having specialist producing more. You also have, Gestalt consciousness, which is only a thing if you're playing a hive mind or machine empire. At least more monthly influence and less war exhaustion gain is good, although +2 encryption is, It is good. It's just not as good as other bonuses. You also have Xenophobe, which, as an actual real-life ethic, is absolutely terrible, but in-game it actually has some of the most powerful effects, as, 40% to 20% less influence cost for building a starbase, which is what you need to expand and claim more territory in this game. Yeah, getting less influence spent to build those is a very, very good thing, and population growth speed is always wonderful. As for Xenophile, real life is probably the most ethically correct thing, and honestly its bonuses are very good. Trade value is a nice thing, if you can get the hang of it. I'll definitely be explaining that later on. And envoys are very good, as you sort of need them when you start finding other nations to build up relations with those nations. Or spy on them and bilk them for your conquest, whichever one you want to go with. Spiritualist, sadly, real life, it is sort of a good ethic. It kind of depends on what religion you follow. But, yeah, not to piss anyone off, but I hate this ethic in the game. Because, sadly, you need to outlaw AI, which is honestly the most anti-democratic thing I have ever seen. That is very unfreedom. Like, synthetic life is still life. Like, morons. Why? Why? I would honestly love this ethic if you didn't need to do that. And there's also materialist, which in real life is probably not the best ethic, materialistic people, they tend to be very money-focused, which can, lead to very bad things. In-game, though, it's actually very good, as it lets you use the academic privilege living standard, and yes, you can change the living standard of your people. This is a very complicated game. This is not a game made for dumb bunnies, let me tell you. And it also means that you cannot use the AI outlawed policy. Oh no, what a shame. I can't be evil to robots. Oh, my heart is already bursting with sarcasm, as I'm sure you can tell. Anyway, before I spend too much time here, because honestly we have already spent most of our time in this screen in particular. Let's go ahead and get to the empire name and flag. Now, this can be whatever you want. You can change the adjective for your nation, which basically only pops up in dialogue with other nations that you run into, and you can actually give your nation a name. So, yeah, you can call it whatever you want. And honestly, there are so many different symbols that you can choose. I mean, you could spend hours in here finding the one that you like. And, you know, you can also change what colors your flag has. It used to be that you had nowhere near as many colors. Like, it used to be that you didn't have white as a color option. You didn't have freaking white as a color option. I mean, honestly, when the game first released, it was absolutely wild, but, you know, now we have many other colors. I mean, oh dear god. Oh no, look at that rainbow. Yeah, you have so many options. Now, you can also get into your ship appearance. Now, if you don't have all the DLCs, then you only start with Mammalian, Reptilian, Avian, Molluscoid, Fungoid, and Arthropoid. Now, honestly, you have Avian, so you don't really need any of the others, because Avian is pretty much the best ship design. But, yeah. Yeah, some of the ship designs are really, really cool, but personally I'm kind of an avian person. Don't know why, they just always look the best, in my opinion. In my humble but objective opinion. And this last part of the advisor voice is another thing that you only have if you have some of the DLCs. So, yeah, I think we've gone over pretty much everything that's reasonable to go over at this point. Like I said, this is a very complicated game, and we honestly haven't explained half of the things in this game. Like, you know, it will auto-change the name of your ruler, but you can call your ruler whatever you want. You know, President, Prime Minister, Warlord, Kaiser, Czar, whatever you want. But, yeah, without further ado, I think I've explained about as much as I can before dragging this video on to absolute infinity. I will probably make a tier list on some of the things, like all the species traits and ethics, to give some more in-depth insight on what all of them do. And also probably some for all of the different civics. I mean, oh my god. Oh, there's buckets of these things. But yeah, when you're finally done, then you can go over into summary, and it will show you all of the traits, you know, advisor voice if you have the DLCs, your ethics. Ooh, yeah, I almost forgot. So, yeah, when you're first creating your species, you can actually make their own biography if you want to. I honestly haven't done that. When I, get to my nation of the Free Fenzo Republic, which is the one I'll be playing for my first playthrough, then I'll basically explain it when we get there. But yeah, when you finally get done making your nation, and honestly it does take a long time, because you'll have to be deciding each of these things, and you know, especially without knowledge of the game, it can be a little confusing. But yeah, that is basically how to create an empire. Now, yes, I'm fine with not saving these changes. You can go into Select Empire, and there are a few pre-made empires that you can play as, like, you know, the Blorg Commonalty, which honestly is disturbingly close to the first nation that I made. But in my opinion, it's always best to just make your own nation, make your own story, be creative with it. Yeah, hi there, Zin. And, yeah, I think that's about it for this episode. I know it feels weird to have an entire episode where there isn't any gameplay, but, you know, I feel like there's nothing I've gone over here that didn't need mentioning, because this is such a big and in-depth game that, like, yeah, I feel like I kind of need to explain it, because, like, otherwise you'd be coming in here like, oh, what in the world? Well, what species traits? Like a government type? Well, I need to decide all this? Like, what in the world? So, yeah. Anyway, that's about enough yammering out of me. So, basically, this is the, First Nation we will be playing as. So, yeah, there you can actually see what I went with. You don't have to do this when making your nation, but I tried to sort of make my nation a sort of reflection of myself. So, we are the Free Fenzo Republic. The species traits, we are unruly, which, you know, again increases our empire size from population. We are fleeting, which reduces our lifespan. We are resilient, which means that our defensive armies are much stronger. We're also very strong, which means that our workers make more resources and our armies are stronger. And we're quick learners, which means our leaders gain experience faster. We're also fanatic xenophile, militarist, warrior culture, environmentalist, and we are a democratic assembly of clans. Now, yeah, I think that's about it. I mean, dear God, half an hour just to discuss how to make your own nation. I mean, dear God, I wonder how long it's gonna take to actually get in and explain mechanics of the game. But yeah, until then, until we actually get into the playthrough proper, I hope you have a good day. And before you go, consider liking, and even better, subscribing. There is a rumor going out that if you're one of the first 500 subscribers, then you'll get a free Fenzo lap dance. I'm not sure if the rumor is true or anything, but, you know, I guess you'll just have to subscribe and find out.